Hey, hello everybody. We are Super Mario and Kylo Ren. We are in the Samurai Brothers podcast, episode 28 today. We are replacing the John and the Matthew as the host for today. Hey, Kylo Ren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
Oh, glad to see that. You seem more happy than usual.
Well, yes, I am currently the Supreme Commander of the New Order.
Oh, that is glad to hear. I have also brought some of my friends to the Yoshi and the Luigi is also here to play today. But today, the John and the Matthew, they asked us to fill in, and we have some great things to do today.
That we do.
So let us see what is going on. Anyway, everyone, welcome to today's episode, and we are here. It's kind of our post Halloween episode, and we're dressing up. So as you can see, Super Mario and Kylo Ren are here to kind of give things as we're going along, and we do want to do our first actually movie trailer reaction that we'll be doing on the podcast. So what better trailer to react to, Matthew, than to a character that's near and dear to our hearts. So obviously the Super Mario movie, it's been out. The trailer's been out for a while, but we're going to react to that because it's quite a different direction than the original Super Mario Brothers movie, right?
Yeah, the thing with the original Super Mario Brothers movie is I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to go in like a different direction to make it unique, and of course the problem is that a lot of diehard fans for the time didn't like it. So
Well, yeah, from what I read about the movie, also, if it was a husband and wife duo that were the directors of it, and they had no idea about the characters or about what Mario was about. So when they were making it, they just went in a completely different direction, and apparently they went off script, and that's what ended up happening. And I know that it was repeatedly stated by Bob Hoskins, who was Mario, that was one of his most hated. He hated that role probably the most.
yeah, my understanding was he and John Leguizamo would regularly drink, and that's how they were able to actually function, which you can't tell because there's such that either attests to how good their acting was, or
Right.
if they well they probably weren't hammered. They were probably just
Yeah.
like under the influence enough to where it's like they were a little bit more relaxed, and they're like, okay, let's just do this.
Yeah, it was paycheck
You
and
can't
everything.
tell that they're impassionate about the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen them. I've seen both of those guys in more wooden performances. That one was. I mean, that was. I would say that one's pretty good by
By
acting standards. And let's remember, let's see. Bob Hoskins, what is didn't Bob Hoskins get an Oscar nod? Let me check. I think I'd like to say
he had an Oscar nod, yes, for something. And then John Leguizamo, he's been in a lot of stuff, here and there. I think what was I know the biggest one he would have been in recently would have been the John Wick series. I know that he was in that. So I mean, with that being said, so
I completely forget with the roles that Bob Hoskins did that he's British, or he was British.
Yes, he was British. Yep, that he was. So let me see here. So we'll see how much we can get into character with this, and then I'm not sure if it'll play or if the sound will actually. Well, I don't know if you heard that or not. The dropping rock.
Well, are you doing screen share?
Yeah, I'm gonna do screen share. Well, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm not sure if it had come up or not. So anyway, yeah, Matthew, let's react to the Super Mario Brothers movie trailer, and we'll see if I think hopefully we can have Mario and Kylo Ren commenting on what they think of the trailer too here. So I'll go ahead and give a screen share. So
I'd rather we just do our own, but
yeah. Okay. So let's see. Oops. Is it? Okay. So can you see the YouTube?
I can.
All right. Well then, let's get right into it then. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Full screen. Go full screen on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Is my face coming up on the screen?
Yes, your face is coming up on the
screen. Great. All right. Well, let's get started then. Super Mario Brothers movie reaction for the Samurai Brothers.
Well, so obviously that's like some kind of a fortress or whatever it is. And then Kamek and the Koopa Troopers. And the big man himself. And he's being voiced by Jack Black. And it's funny how the one dude.
So here's what we have so far. I mean, one of the things that I think was, interesting was the fortress. But I know that a lot of people have been, commenting. Whoever voiced Magi, the Magi Koopa, did a good job on that. I know that I saw quite a bit of praise in some of the other comments for that, but it's starting out interesting so far, don't you think, with this?
Yeah, so they're like going at whatever that kingdom is, and
but yeah, I mean, spot on. The design for Koopa is I think it's pretty something, and I know a lot of people are saying that maybe the voice could have been deeper, but let's get right into it.
And we got a bunch of penguins. I think this is a reference to Super Mario 64. And Bowser just take.
Oh, they got one Koopa.
They got one Koopa. And then he just, barrels down the gates.
So, obviously, they're utilizing Bowser and his flame breath, and pretty much those guys are powerless, right? I think.
Yeah. Like I said, the penguins I think are a reference to Mario 64, where that one stage where you help the penguins, but so they're going up against. Yeah, they're thinking, oh, we're gonna pelt you with snowballs, and Bowser's just like.
Well, I mean, when they're dropping lava rocks and then flame and everything, usually ice doesn't work too well against flame and stuff like that.
Well, it's especially against lava.
Yeah.
Well,
All
you know,
right.
one commentator that I watched who also did the reaction noted how there's like a lot of variety in the Koopa Troopers. So there, if you
Yeah.
look if you look closely, there's variety in like the types of Koopa Troopers.
Well, that probably reflects the times. Obviously, when it came out originally, you only had certain types, and then as the games have progressed, as time has gone on, it's they've got their variety of Koopa Troopers.
Yeah, so you've got who knows how many varieties of Koopa Troopers, and they're actually looking them look competent.
Hmm.
Because normally Koopa Troopers are easy. And another thing, I think the reason why they left out the Goombas is because originally the Goombas were from the Mushroom Kingdom.
Right.
So, and they they were like some kind of Mushroom Kingdom, which makes sense. They look like mushrooms. There's some kind of Mushroom Kingdom creatures, and they defected to Bowser's side is what happened. So it's this is not so the Goombas being absent is not really inconsistent with the the Mario universe. But yeah, and then and of course they showed
well, let's see how it goes.
And then they showed comics powers. He is the magical one, and then they showed Bowser's goal, which is he's going for the Star of Power.
So let's finish this trailer up, and then we'll finish out with this reaction. Here we go. All right. So yeah, that's it. That is the. Let me see. Stop screen sharing here. All right, Matthew. So yeah, that is the Super Mario Brothers movie. So coming out next year, and I'm actually pretty excited. I'll tell you what, because it happened before and it happened this time. I got goosebumps from hearing that little Mario tune.
The din 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 din.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's full like orchestral.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I'm glad that they decided to go the animated route, not the live action route.
Yeah, because the reality is, despite all the technology and like the live capture and everything, it's like you're limited in what you can do. With the live action route. But if you can do, it's always been that way. You can do stuff with with animation that you cannot do no matter how much technology you have with live action. So another thing that again, I've watched a few different commentators, and they mention how in the background you actually see little background like characters from the various video games, and then also the most obvious fact is that it's like there's Toad, there's Mario, and then Toad saying "Don't touch that mushroom, you'll die." That's an obvious reference to in the first game there was the poison mushrooms.
Right. The lost levels had the poison mushroom.
Oh, it was the lost levels. Okay.
Right. Yeah. The poison mushroom. Poison mushroom didn't come up in the first one.
They didn't come up?
Well, what ended up, you had Super Mario Brothers, which was 1985. And then they released a second version of it, and in Japan it was Super Mario Brothers 2, but it was never released in the US because Nintendo deemed it too difficult for
Nintendo America.
Right. They deemed it too difficult for the customers. So, but they re-released they released it for the first time with the All-Stars game pack.
And it was released as the Lost Levels.
Right, it was released as the Lost Levels because
what became known as Super Mario Brothers 2 in the US was originally a completely separate game called Doki Doki Panic, and they basically swapped
they palette swapped.
Yeah, they palette swapped the characters. And that's the first adaptation in which Luigi is portrayed as being taller than Mario.
Right. And that's how it kind of canonically came to be that Luigi is taller than Mario.
Though I have seen some adaptations where they are the same height.
Right.
It just most games, Luigi.
Right. Most games nowadays do portray Luigi as taller than Mario. Yeah, because I think, and I think they did release Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan, and that one they released they released it as Super Mario USA. So
that would make sense considering that it was originally
it ended up coming from the US, and then obviously Super Mario Brothers 3 didn't change at all.
Yeah, it was universal across the board.
Right. And then
that happens to games a lot because I remember there were like there were 4 different games of Pokemon, for example. There was in Japan, Red, Green, and Blue were all released, and then Yellow was released as after the anime came out,
right? Which
adapted the anime. But my understanding was only Red came out. The only version that came out in its original form in the US was Red. Blue was, which turns out was actually, no, wait a minute. Green, which so Japanese Blue was another upgrade from the first two. Japanese Green became American Blue.
Right.
And Japanese Blue was never released in any form in the US.
Right.
Which would have been interesting, but
Yeah.
I still have my American Blue.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to play it on, but I still have my American Blue.
Yeah. Probably the better thing to do would be to get like a DS, and then you can get like the because DS the original DS can and a DS Lite, I think, can still play GBA games.
And try to get one of those because they're
right. You could get like the Ruby Red or the Emerald Green, I think, because they re-released those versions on for GBA.
You know, that's another thing. I was actually I recently watched another and it came out on an educational what's it called? Channel that I normally watch on YouTube. It's called, I think it was Knowledge Hub, but it might have been Pointless Hub. But the guy talked about the Pokemon games and how there's not a whole lot of variation and upgrade nowadays from game to game. And he pointed out that something like I think 75%, or it might have been 80%, but a large amount of the revenue that comes from the Pokemon franchise nowadays is merchandise sales.
Right.
It's the games and even like the Pokemon cards are compared to the larger part of the revenue is a small part of the revenue.
Yeah, because I'm always seeing like videos or people like stream on Twitch where they're opening up the Pokemon cards and trying to get they're trying to find these rare cards. I think also it's really diluted the the card game is the fact that they, you can have like 5 different versions of a rare card in the same pack. It's kind of like what they did with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, where originally, so the rarities in the Pokemon card packs were just, you had your holo rare, you had your non-holo rares, and that was pretty much it. Now, and then when they released those original Japanese packs in the US, you had your cards that had the holo rare, and then you had those same cards would have a non-holo, and then you had your regular rare cards. So then it ended up being 3 types. But then now there's like this EX rare, and then there's like the whole card is going to be holo, where it used to be just a picture. It's all this different type of stuff, and I think that's where it really dilutes the market and stuff these days. But I was I went onto this website a couple days ago, a website that I used to go on to. I don't know if you remember it, but do you remember how sometimes I would buy these magazines that had like the card prices and stuff?
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I think it was Beckett, which they're still around. It was like Beckett magazine, which would list the monthly prices of cards and stuff like that. They weren't the specific website I went to, but I know that they're still around, and I think a lot of times, you have to subscribe to these sites if you want to get like the upgraded pricing and stuff. But really,
they have to make money somehow,
right? But that's really for places that are, you would really be subscribing to that if you're in the industry. You're buying and selling the, being a card collector or card trader, I guess. Obviously, we kind of still have our cards, and I've been wanting to try and get into
our dear
trading.
sister actually restarted collecting them, I think on more of a casual basis, kind of like how I started recollecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards on a casual basis. Honestly, when it comes one example is that when it comes to like stuff like that, this at one point there is actually a game store nearby that does Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and at one point I was thinking, I'm gonna do that. This is the extent of my Yu-Gi-Oh game involvement, is because it does everything automatically. I just have to go yes or no if I want to activate a some kind of a card.
Yeah, use a spell card or something. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like the Yu-Gi-Oh deck, I don't know how much the archetypes, and I don't think that like archetypes and stuff like that is really as connected in like Pokemon, for an example, as it is in like Yu-Gi-Oh. But it's like in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like I was thinking, I'm gonna put together a Kaiba deck, a Yugi deck, Jonouchi, or Joey.
Joey, yeah.
Yes, as she's known in the US deck, and it's just like. And I came to realize, oh my gosh, with the way the game is now, if I want to be competitive, it's like there's no way. What I ended up doing was I ended up having a Dark Magician archetype deck, which is all stuff related to Dark Magician. I did a Dark Magician archetype deck. I did a Blue Eyes archetype deck, a Red Eyes archetype deck, and the other one I use is the Toon archetype deck. So
yeah,
it's just
because we only know, because we kind of go based on the characters from the manga and the anime, so we're kind of old school when it comes to that. So I don't blame you for. Yeah,
I stuck with what's familiar to me.
Right.
Honestly, even when I found out that they were starting to do stuff after the end of the original run, I was like, this isn't real. It wasn't written by it wasn't written by Takahashi. It's like none of it. It's like he did the original stuff. That was it. None of the new stuff was written by Takahashi. So as far as I'm concerned, the canon, it's like
it stopped.
It's like you can have this all big giant franchise, and I even use cards that came out from the filler arcs because they're useful.
Right.
But it's, as far as I'm concerned, the canon is the original manga. And if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to watch not the original anime because that was limited because there was 2 anime based on the original manga. But it's going to be Duel Monsters.
Yeah, Duel Monsters. You're going to watch Duel Monsters.
Yeah, it's as far as I'm concerned, that's.
I will say though, Duel Monsters, based on when I used to, because sometimes I would get home and I'd be watching it, on the Japanese TV and stuff. I can tell you that they did have the Duel Monsters did have its own fair share of filler episodes.
Yeah, that's what I talked about, the filler. Like the entire 4th season was a filler season. It was nothing but filler, completely. And like I said, I actually use some of those cards in my decks because they're very useful, but it's...
Yeah,
You know what's really crazy? There's enough God card-related cards, and that the anime versions, the manga anime versions of the God cards are just completely overpowered.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You can still... There are players who actually make decks based off of the God card archetypes.
Well, yeah, because the original ones, when they came out, were promo only, so they weren't tournament legal. But then they managed to make the cards so that then they could, they made versions of them so that they could be tournament legal. But obviously, they have to be like effect cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're like severely dumbed down, but you could still make a deck out of those,
right?
The God card archetypes, and they're like, it's still possible to like do overpowered destruction, like win.
Well, because I think at some tournament, because there are some cards that they've released in the official, TCG that are banned from tournaments.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of them.
I think for a while even Exodia was banned from tournaments. And
Not anymore. I've played in Master Duels. I've played Exodia decks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also possible to beat an Exodia deck because they're limited. It's
right.
If I'm sure if they had a choice, then everyone would be putting like 3 of each of the Exodia pieces in there. You can't do that because they're limited. You can only put the 5. Only put the set of 5 in there.
I'm wondering if that's what the issue was that people were putting in, more than one Exodia set into their decks. That might have been the issue, because then you had your chances of getting the whole Exodia set was a lot better than, just one.
Well, for the longest time, what we know as in Japan as the Thousand Eyes Sacrifice, I think it's called Relinquished, in the US, but that was banned for a while.
I think Relinquished is the original version, and then I think, you might, because Thousand Eyes Sacrifice I think is the what did they call those the monsters when they combine? Because those were the purple cards.
Right. Those are the
I forget what they're called.
Not merged.
But yeah, what was funny was the Thousand Eyes Sacrifice. That was like one of the first ultra rare cards that I was able to find when I was, collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'd go to the convenience stores and buy them because, back then, I mean, for what they were charging for those cards, it's like 150 yen for 5 cards. Now, those packs always, they didn't always have rare cards. You wouldn't always have rare cards in.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Pokemon cards where you're guaranteed at least one rare.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if it was Yu-Gi-Oh or if it was Pokemon, but sometimes you could get 2 rares in a booster pack.
It could have been both, for all we know.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know how they do it in Japan right now, whether they're only selling the 5 card packs or whether they're selling them as 9 or 10 card packs right now.
The only ones that come out over the minimums are 10 cards out here.
Right, over here. That's why they charge like $4 or $5 a pack, I think, or even 6, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 6 right now because of the inflation. Yeah, card collecting is not a cheap hobby anymore. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, definitely not a cheap hobby anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but anyway, so the decks that I create, they're based off of the alpha monsters of the archetype, not the core people in the deck. Like it's not my Kaiba deck, it's not my Yugi deck, it's not my Joey deck, it's not my Pegasus deck. It's my It's my Dark Magician deck, it's my Blue Eyes deck, it's my Red Eyes deck, and it's my Toon deck. And interestingly enough, the deck that I'm using right now in Master Duels, the most that I found is the easiest to summon higher level monsters is actually my Blue Eyes deck. No, not my Blue Eyes deck, my Red Eyes deck. There's a lot of monsters in the archetype that actually make it easier. Their effects allows you to special summon the higher level monsters in the deck easier.
Mm. Okay.
Like all the other decks, it's a lot harder. It's possible to summon the alpha monsters, but it's a little bit more on the difficult side. So if you're going purely off of the archetype, well, the way that I structure it, so I just my Red Eyes deck is just a better deck in terms of like getting the monsters out there.
All
but
right.
we went off on a tangent. So yeah, Super Mario is looking good.
Yeah, you know what?
So we did talk about Luigi, the Luigi end part.
So yeah, have you heard about the theories behind how they've worked Luigi into the movie?
Well, the way that it looks like Mario and Luigi are probably it looks like they're it's like how it was in the original, where they're from like a version of our normal world,
right? And
something happens. Let's just say that they like go on a plumbing job and they get sucked into the pipes, and they, Mario gets plopped out into the Mushroom Kingdom, and Luigi gets plopped out into one of Bowser's territories where he's
chased by all the
dry bone.
Yeah, they're saying that maybe that might set up a side arc for a possible Luigi's Mansion movie.
Well, the actor who's portraying who's voicing Luigi says he'd like to do a Luigi's Mansion movie.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, shall we get into the next part of our episode, which is going to cover the UFC 280, Matthew. I think we had a couple of championship fights going on with that.
We did.
All right, let's get into the UFC 280, right, Mr. Matthew? So I think for time's sake, we'll cover the main card for tonight. Unless there was any significant fights that stood out to you on the prelims.
There weren't, and then on top of that, the main the stream I was watching, there were satellite issues. It's all I saw was pixels, so I didn't get to see the live stream. I had to go back and watch the highlights, and this was one of those kind of disappointing cards where all of them, the majority of them, went to the decision.
Okay,
but Sean O'Malley somehow was able to demonstrate that he's the real deal, and he defeated former champion Petr Yan.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, well, split decision. So, I mean, kind of hard to say how good that is. I mean, but, if he did dominate, then that's how it went, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, so here's what something that I did find. It looks like we did have an upset actually couple upsets, it appears. If I'm going over the prelim card, you had Carol Rosa in the women's bantamweight bout upset number 12 Lena Landsberg from Sweden. Although it looks like it was a majority decision.
Well, that's because there was Rosa delivered an illegal knee.
Rosa delivered an illegal knee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That is interesting. And then there was another upset. Bilal Muhammad TKO'd Sean Brady, who was number 8 in the welterweight bout.
And he got a performance of the night for it.
I see. Okay, yeah. Well, that's definitely.
I think he's like from Morocco or something. I don't know. It says American mixed martial artist, but
right.
I think he's of Moroccan ancestry.
And then on the main card, we also had...
he's Palestinian. Okay.
On the main card, also, is this Benil Dariush upset Matuz Gamrot. And that was a unanimous decision. So it sounds like he definitely showed why he was the winner on that. And then, like you said, Sean O'Malley got the win over Petr Yan on this main card event.
Yep. And then, as I suspected, Aljamain Sterling defended it against TJ Dillashaw. He was, he was controlling that fight, and then he took Dillashaw down, controlled him, and was able to.
My understanding also is Dillashaw hurt himself in the fight because Allen, his teammate, was checking on that, and he said that Dillashaw hurt his shoulder apparently.
Well, that certainly happens, but that certainly happens.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, it was dislocated, and which means that he'll have to get surgery on it again. And Allen is saying that Dillashaw might be done if.
Well, yeah, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but like shortly after his fight with Cejudo, when he was on that 2-year suspension, he got surgery on both his shoulders.
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's like, you know what, he had his time in the sun, but he's getting older and he's had injuries, and it's just possible that this might be it.
Might be time to.
It might be time to hang up the gloves.
Yep. Maybe he can get an action movie deal or something.
My understanding is he's got like his own like health food business going on. So I think because he had to find a way to diversify and make money during his 2-year suspension. So he created a dieting health food business. So he's got that to retire on. I think he should just yeah. At this point, he really has nothing else to prove. It's like he made his way up to a title shot. He fought. He got injured in it, and he lost. So.
All right, and then looks like Matthew. So the main event of the night was the lightweight title bout. So if you want to run us through this one again about what led up to it, what happened.
Well, it was for the vacant.
Yeah.
It was for the vacant lightweight title, but the reality is Charles Oliveira never lost it, and he was fighting Islam Makhachev, who is Khabib Nurmagomedov's teammate, and Islam fulfilled his destiny, and he won the title. So as far as I'm concerned, this was for the lineal championship, and Islam took it. So
yep.
And he's now the lightweight champ.
So that's interesting.
And Khabib was in his corner, and he was happy for him. So
So Khabib Khabib stays involved, right? He just doesn't fight anymore.
Yeah, he stays involved. He at one point actually had bought an MMA promotion in Russia, and they were starting to run shows in the U.S.
Right, but
then an ongoing conflict happened recently, and kind of ruined that. So.
Okay.
But yeah, he's been involved, and he coached Islam, so.
Okay. Yeah, so things are rolling obviously within the UFC. So.
Yeah, I'm hearing rumors, not set in stone yet, but that John Jones might be finally making his heavyweight debut either December or January.
Mm-hmm.
Probably against Stipe Miocic.
Really? So John Jones is deciding to try and move up, huh?
He's been wanting to do that for a while. And incidentally, I don't know how he made light heavyweight for as long as he did.
Yeah.
Because he's a tall guy.
Yeah, he is, and very, very long reach.
Yeah, so now the question is will he still be able to maintain the advantage that he has, but because considering he's, because it's one of those things where, you have an advantage in certain weight classes, but the higher you go up, the less that advantage becomes plausible. Because even though John Jones walks around I think he's walking around 240 nowadays, maybe even 250. But is he still going to have that speed, that athletic ability? Is he going to have all that? Is that going to translate to is that going to translate? Because let's throw an example out there for Overeem. Overeem was not doing well at or middleweight. It was in Pride, but he bulked up and he became more powerful at heavyweight, and it worked out for him. Question is, can John Jones make that translate? Not to mention, John Jones, because of all of his ongoing stuff, Jackson Winklejohn threw him out of the gym finally. I don't know why they didn't throw him out earlier, because Greg Jackson and Henry Winklejohn are not the type of guys who, is it Henry Winklejohn? They're nice guys. They're not the type of guy. They're like they're more like philosophical coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly was just like, how is it that these guys who are very nice family men putting up with this, with, this idiot? And then finally they just said, we've had enough. You need to check your, so it's really a question of, are we really going to see the same John Jones if he really does make his debut at heavyweight? If he's fighting at Jackson Winklejohn?
Well, we'll have to see. So, just to kind of, I think, if we're looking at upcoming events in the UFC, we've got a fight night coming up this Saturday, Rodriguez versus Lemos, and then the next pay-per-view is the following weekend, Adesanya versus Pereira.
The main event for this upcoming fight night, I would say that the winner should get the winner of Esparza versus Zhang at UFC 281.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've both been on a rise. I really do think that, and they've both been on the rise. They've both been going on tear. They've been beating all the best people. Oh, and this is really appropriate. Marina Rodriguez's only loss is to Carla Esparza.
Mm.
And Marina Rodriguez honestly reminds me of like younger, like ultimate form alpha status, Joanna and Jurczyk.
Mm.
But yeah, she's big. She's a kickboxer. She has most of the advantage against what's it called? Strawweights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and they both beat the same gal. Both beat the karate hottie Michelle Watterson.
All right. Well, it should be interesting to see what'll happen.
Well, and you know what's going to be interesting with and I know I'm talking like a few weekends ahead, but UFC 281 Adesanya versus Pereira. Israel Adesanya lost to one guy in his kickboxing career, and that's Alex Pereira, who he's defending the title against at Madison Square Garden on November 12th.
Yeah.
So
it's fate tying people together. All right. Well, Matthew, are we ready to move on then? So we'll see how things are going to go with that, and obviously we're setting up some title fights and stuff for the upcoming events. So we'll be monitoring to see how that's going. And then we've got another kind of, a former UFC fighter in another event that took place. Matthew, I think, if you know what I'm referring to, that somehow this still happens and people buy the pay-per-views.
This
and
is
obviously
what boxing has come to nowadays. This is what boxing has come to nowadays. It's a freak show.
Freak show. Bunch of celebrities.
Let's not watch Tyson Fury. Let's not watch Deontay Wilder. Let's not watch these. It's like they still have pay-per-views. Like, yeah, let's not watch these guys. Let's watch YouTuber Jake Paul versus former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva. Let's watch that. This is what boxing has come to.
So Jake Paul, I Googled it, and this thing from CBS Boxing. Jake Paul versus Henderson Silva. Fight results, highlights, undercard, complete guide from Arizona. Paul maintained his undefeated record against an all-time great in the sport of MMA. Means absolutely nothing.
let's I have his record here. Let's look at this. Okay, so his first fight was an amateur fight. He beats a YouTuber. His first professional fight in 2018 was when he went against the YouTuber. His first professional fight, 2020, he beats a YouTuber. His second professional fight, 2020, he beats Nate Robinson, a former basketball player. Third fight, 2021, beats Ben Askren. Second and fourth fights in 2021, beats Tyrone Woodley twice. First time gets a split decision. Second time he gets a knockout. And here we are now, in 2022, his sixth fight, and he's beating Anderson Silva, 47-year-old Anderson Silva.
I'll tell you what, though, that knockout of Tyrone Woodley, that was brutal.
You know, here's the thing. He's fighting at cruiserweight, which I believe is like what is boxing cruiserweight? What the heck is boxing?
They got way more weights than MMA.
Let's see, what is boxing cruiserweight? Boxing cruiserweight. 200 pounds. He's fighting 200 pounds.
Yeah, because Silva was wrestling middleweight.
Yes. Well, Silva fought at light heavyweight several times at 205. So Silva is the only natural what's it called? He's the only natural
fighter
of that weight that's around Paul's size. But as we pointed out, Paul has 20 years on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, really? Uriah Hall fought as well. Former UFC fighter Uriah Hall. Oh, and he won. Well, congrats to Uriah Hall. I think this is his boxing debut. Yeah, congrats on his boxing debut against Devon Bell, who is... This is what this has come to. Showtime is putting on these freak shows.
Yep, Showtime.
Showtime is putting on these freak shows. He's putting this on between, Jake Paul, a YouTuber, and Anderson Silva, former UFC fighter, and also fights like Uriah Hall, former UFC fighter, and Devon Bell, former NFL player. This is what the sport of boxing has come to. And, I'm very glad that MMA's mostly gotten away from this, but let's face it, Dana White, even though he'd like to generally do, actual fights.
Yeah,
and let's face it, Brock Lesnar was a legitimate, when he went to the UFC, he was a legitimate fighter. He was an NCAA champion. He'd actually had a fight in MMA before, actually gone against an actual MMA fighter before he went to the UFC, actually fought and beat, multiple champions.
Well, and when he would fight, he was a legit, he'd get some legit, hits in and knockouts and stuff, right?
Yeah, he was for all intents and purposes an actual fighter because he went out there. And even Bobby Lashley, same thing. But he wrestled in the Army, 3-time NAI champion. They both came from, even though they look like big old muscly, fighters, they actually had wrestling backgrounds. But you do have those cases where Dana White did like to indulge, not as much as the Japanese. Let's face it, the Japanese promotions
Japanese, they love that stuff too.
They had the Super Hulk tournament, which was just all freak shows.
I remember when they got one of the years when I was in Japan, when I was there with Mom and Dad, and the Ryzen does that a lot, and they had like Gabby Garcia. They did
right? They did. I don't know why Gabby Garcia hasn't fought lately, because there are women she could fight.
They had her go against someone who is like 30 pounds lighter than her, and Gabby was just laying down the gauntlet on the other girl, and it was a joke, you know, and they'll get, you know, I mean, hey, the promotions they when the promotions have the money, man, they'll bring out people that I think the one, what was it, the one kickboxing win that Akebono got in his career was against, I think, what was it, Kadoda. Remember Kadoda? He was the referee.
Yeah, he was
at
a
lot
ref.
of those. Yeah, he was a ref.
He's like Frank Trigg, who, you know, had an actual career, and then he actually went into, and then after his career, he decided to do officiating.
Right. So they got Kadoda to come out of retirement to fight Akebono, and even that fight went the distance. And so it was a decision for Akebono. That was his sole win, was against a guy who was in his, I don't know, 50s or something.
Let's face it, Akebono, it's like, yeah, Akebono was just a pure freak show. He was big and he, you know, excelled in the national sport of Japan. But the problem was he had no other kind of combat sports experience. When he played in high school, he played basketball. Mm-hmm. Konishiki had more combat experience than that. He did football. It would have made more sense.
So did Musashi Maru.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it would have made more sense for either of those guys to have done MMA. But no, they chose Akebono, who had basketball experience.
Well,
and was used to doing this.
I don't think Konishiki would have taken it. I don't think anyone would have wanted to fight Konishiki, to be honest.
Well, yeah, after you know,
and I don't think
after two Japanese fights with Emmanuel Yarborough, one in which he just pancaked on top of the guy.
Well, no, I don't think Konishiki would have been able to handle it because, you know, his knees at the time were shot.
Well, aren't his knees, even though he's lost like 300 pounds, aren't his knees not exactly good still?
No, I don't think he does, like, you know, well, I don't know what he does nowadays. You know, he does stuff. He gets around. I
actually watched a bunch of videos. He does like public speaking and stuff like that. And
well, yeah.
You know, I love this. He had a very good quote. So during the pandemic, he was traveling around creating businesses. Like, he's got his own line of like barbecue sauce now. So he was like creating his own business and stuff like that. And he was traveling around during the pandemic, and his friends were like, "What are you doing? You're gonna get COVID." I kid you not. His quote, and you can look this up on, like, I forget what the Hawaiian media outlet was, but his quote was, it's like, if I get COVID and die, at least I died on my feet doing something than sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah. I do see nowadays, because I follow his Instagram. He's got an Instagram. So I see him a lot when he's in Japan nowadays. He hangs out a lot at Musashigawa Beya, you know. So he kind of, you know, helps Musashi Maru out.
Oh yeah, well, I heard that Musashi Maru's nephew at one point got into professional sumo.
His nephew got into it. He didn't really stay long. There was another guy from Texas who was he was half black, half Japanese, and he
Centorio.
Yeah, and he got around. So he was able to get around the foreigner
limit
policy, because he used his mom's birthplace as his place of origin in the Kyokai, and they allowed that, and so that's how he got in, because at that time, yeah, Musashi's nephew was also wrestling. So this guy.
So they were in the same Beya?
Right. They were in the same Beya. Two guys from the U.S., but you know, only one of them was fulfilling the foreigner rule.
Limit.
Right, the limit. So you had that, and that's what a lot of guys are doing nowadays, especially if they're kind of like naturalized. So you're having, there's a lot of Mongolians, you know, they come over as exchange students, and then they they're going to Japanese school, and that's how they're, they get their permanent residence, and that's how they're getting into sumo, because they don't have to worry about the foreigner rule.
But in that way, they can also partnership maybe in certain bayas where, like, maybe there is a Mongolian who hits the quota rule, and they can still actually,
Right. Well, and a lot of it has to do with these feeder schools. There's a lot of powerhouse, high schools or colleges, in Japan, and they feed into the Kyokai. Like, what was it? Totori Johoku, I know, is a really powerful school. Saitama Sakae, who is a pretty strong wrestling school, but they're also a top competitor in the Japanese sumo world.
Is that one of the what's it called? Is that one of the schools that Enho came from?
I'd have to look it up. I know that Enho went to Nihon University also. I think that's how because he went there first before getting in.
Yeah, I know that he was like a 2-time sumo world champion before he actually, as a lightweight.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Enho. Let's see, where did he go? So he went to Kanazawa Gakuin. Okay. Kanazawa Gakuin. I don't know if they're really great. Yeah, he was a world sumo junior champion, and then he went on to Kanazawa Gakuin University. So he just went through that feeder school, and yes, he was also a student athlete champion tournament. Yeah, champion. So yeah, Enho's been around too. But yeah, that's how that goes. But so another one of our
an interesting thing I actually read up, it's in theory the only Japanese sumo ranking system would be in professional sumo, but I actually read up the United States Sumo Federation actually has a sumo ranking system.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it available to see?
Yeah, it is. You go on the web. You'd have to go around on the website, but it's got a ranking system, and it's structured on a lot of the belt systems.
Oh, really? Huh. Interesting. U.S. Sumo Federation. I mean, do you have to be a member in order to be ranked on there?
That is the thing. Yeah, in order to get the rankings,
I wouldn't be on there.
And you actually have to be after the first rank. You actually do have to be active in competition.
Yeah, and you told me Andrew's not sure where they're going to hold the actual U.S. Sumo Championships, right?
Yeah, next year they don't know yet.
So kind of hard to tell, but you'll be getting in there to do the Sumo Open, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that. There's no kind of conflicts with my day job or anything like that. So
yeah, schedule you can take.
And that is not, they have like 4 or 5 different categories of tournaments. They're like, state, regional, international. It's just like, I think that counts as a pretty high. Honestly, like, just to get the what's it called ranking, I'd be tempted to like, just advance through the rankings. I'd be tempted to get the
membership.
Yeah, the membership.
So another one of our tangents, as you can see, but kind of to go back to Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva.
Yeah, that's just it's funny because Nate Diaz was recently talking about, it's like his last fight was the last on his contract, and he was talking about maybe going to boxing. I'm just like, Nate, you have a professional boxing background. I know you can go and beat this guy. Shut him up.
Yeah, because he does a lot of talking. Does a lot of talking. Yeah. I bet you if
like,
Nate
shut this guy up.
If Nate were to challenge him, I'd tell you, Jake would run away with his tail between his legs. If Nate were to step on the scene.
He literally tried to pick a fight with Daniel Cormier, and Cormier was like, "Do not mess with me." And Cormier said he's willing to fight him in MMA, specifically in MMA. He's not willing to box with him. He said, "I will fight him in MMA. I will cut down." It's like he likes being, for lack his words, not mine. He likes being fat, but he specifically said that he would cut down to light heavyweight and he would fight him in MMA. He will not fight him in boxing.
Yeah, he's not gonna play.
He's not gonna play his game. Yeah, he said he's not gonna play his game. He's not gonna do that. It's like, yeah, I was like, put up or shut up. You're either gonna fight me in MMA or you're not gonna fight, or we're, it's like fight me in MMA or shut up.
But so now it's gonna be a matter of, it's like, well, who's gonna be dumb enough to fight him? Because there's gonna be another schmuck. There's gonna be another person that gets sucked into the paycheck.
I've actually in one of his YouTube videos, what's it called? Jake Paul actually did show a hit list, and it had the Diaz brothers on it.
Oh, good. So,
and another thing is that it had a lot of, the Diaz brothers were active in the in the UFC at the time. Dana White might have been on the list too, which is not smart because that's where his combat experience is. But yeah, he was like, yeah, he said, like, yeah, Dana White was not happy. He's like, and he said, "Stop trying to poach my fighters. They're under contract. Stop trying to poach my fighters." It's like, it's like, I hope Jake Paul puts his money where his mouth is. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. And it's like, it's like Nate said he's willing to go into boxing. It's like, if he says he's willing to go into boxing, guess what? He has boxing experience. So it's like, it's like, you want to smack talk and you want to put Nate on your hit list, then put your money where your mouth is. Fight, go on the hit list. And it's like, we have seen what happens when Nate Diaz goes in there and he does his boxing. It's like,
yeah, it's not pretty.
Yeah, because it's both Diaz brothers have actual boxing experience.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. All right. Well,
so it's like, if you're, it's like, you know what, Jake Paul, if you're willing to do this freak show and Nate's willing to do it, then fine, go do it. But you might turn out like Conor McGregor turned out. And the only reason why Conor McGregor beat him in their second match was because he was doing the fight and run away thing, which worked with the judges.
Yep.
Because when he tried to actually box him, guess what? It didn't work out. And then he realized, oh my gosh, this guy's not falling.
All right, Matt. Well, we'll move on then. So that was an interesting one. A lot of stuff that we had to kind of, our opinions, and much needed opinions, honestly, about this stuff. It's like you and I both like to see legit fights or legit matches taking place, and not really one to waste our times on clown shows. Fish in the pond. So let's get right into this, Matthew.
The occasional freak show is okay, but it's like
Bob Sapp versus Akebono 1 that will forever live in our minds.
Yeah, the second one was really disappointing.
It was, yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, we didn't have any beached whale moments.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like I know that I might be being a tad bit disrespectful to Akebono now, considering the state he's in, but it's just like, I'm sorry. Whenever it's like whenever I saw him, he just reminded me of a beach whale, and I will keep saying it again.
Yep.
And his his wife and his kids were all sitting ringside, and she's holding on to her kids like, oh my gosh.
I mean, well,
don't show my hubby.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is what it is.
I've been seeing a lot of fighters saying that, I've seen a lot of fighters said that they should not, like their significant others and their wives, they should not be ringside, watching their parent or their significant other get battered.
Right.
Because it kind of traumatizes the kids.
Yeah. All right, Matthew, we've got one more topic to cover tonight, and it is One Piece 1064. So we're moving along with in the Vegapunk arc, as you know. And one interesting thing now that we both discovered, and we're going to cover it very shortly. But let's start with the cover story arc, which is obviously the Germa 66. They're escaping from the Whole Cake Island. Versus the Big Mom Pirates. And an interesting thing we see is that somehow, and it looks like this is confirmed, that indeed we see that Van Alger and what's his name, Kuzan, show up, and they're capturing what's her name, the Charlotte daughter that was going to be engaged to Sanji.
Charlotte
Pudding. Yeah, Pudding. So they show up and they capture her. So that's where it was. So that confirms that Kuzan is working with the Blackbeard Pirates. But to what extent, and this has been the subject of theories and stuff like that in the One Piece community for a while. Is Kuzan really working for the Blackbeard Pirates, or is he a double agent? But we are confirmed now that he is working with them. It's just a matter of on his own volition, or is he a double agent? I don't know. What do you think, Matthew, at this point?
It could go. Well, to me, it's like him being an actual part of the Blackbeard Pirates just does not attest to his character. It's like, why would he why would he do that?
Yeah.
So it is possible.
Yeah. That's very true. So anyway, but going into the main chapter itself, so I think this was so let me see here. If I'm looking at the wiki, this one happened to be, the battle continues between the Blackbeard Pirates and Law's crew. And we're seeing that, we're seeing that more of the Blackbeard Pirates have eaten devil fruits. And we're seeing that, but we're seeing that the other crewmates of Law aren't as weak as they appear to be, because they're able to swim underwater and stuff like that, thanks to them not being devil fruit users. But I guess, when you're in the north, when you're in the North Blue, you get to develop a lot more better swimming capabilities.
Well, not just that, but they're in a submarine.
Right.
So yeah, it's it's initially it's like a lot of people, like Grand Line Review was stating that what's it called, that the Heart Pirates didn't stand much of a chance, but it's looking like they're actually holding their own against the Blackbeard Pirates.
I mean, the obviously they're not going to beat the Blackbeard Pirates, so a victory for them would be that they can escape and no heavy casualties, I
Yeah, I think that's basically what they're trying to do. Law, it's like they're just trying to hold their own long enough to find an opportunity to
escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reality is you can't fight you cannot fight and win every single battle, especially if you're going up against, someone who's more powered than you. So sometimes you just have to admit that you have to cut your losses, admit that you're outmanned, or no, not outmanned in this case, but outgunned, and you just run, fight.
Right.
It's like get ready. The important thing is fighting another day in the end.
Right.
That's what you have to be able to do.
Well, and considering this, they just got done fighting 2 Yonkos. And then they're all of a sudden in the battle with a 3rd Yonko.
Yeah, so this is no joke. So yeah, it's like winning is just not that important in this case. It's like don't be stubborn. It's like who's the dude that Ace had to face off against when Sabo was in East Blue when when
when they in the flashback.
Yeah, that guy specifically said, and I think he said only 2 people, like 2 types of people. I think I'd like to say the quote was only 2 types of people survive: the cowards and the smart ones.
Right.
And the brave die first. Something along those lines.
Right.
But this is definitely the case here, and it's like, this is not a time to be stupid. Or is it the brave and the stupid die first? Something along those lines. But the point is, this is not the time. This is not the time to try to, and we're not talking about dumb pirates either. The hard pirates, including Law, are a lot smarter. So they know they can't, they know that the Blackbeard pirates are overpowered with all the devil fruit powers. They know that they can't win this. So just, find a way to get out of there.
Porshami.
What?
Porshami, that was his name. From the Blue Jam Pirates.
Yeah, it's like at this point, it's like what you need to do is find a way to get out of there. That's what you need to do. It's winning is not as important as living to fight another day and just getting out of there.
So now we'll get into the interesting part, is that they kind of pan away, while they're fighting, while the Heart Pirates and the Blackbeard Pirates are fighting, they go to another panel where I think, was it Van Alger, I think, or no, not Van Alger. Some other pirates are kind of taunting a prisoner on the Blackbeard ship, and it is Charlotte Pudding. So she was indeed captured by Van Alger and Kuzan. And so we're seeing that the cover story somehow is converging in real time. Now, in the past, the cover story arcs normally they kind of run adjacent to, the story, but they've never really converged into the main arc until we see, it doesn't converge in real time. This is the first time we're seeing that it's converging in real time, because normally we see the after effects of the cover story arcs. They what may end up happening is nothing really happens. It's just an epilogue to a story arc. But we also may see that it'll converge into the story, much later. And the best example of that is when the very first arc, which was Buggy and Alvida meeting up, and then Buggy reuniting with with his crewmates after they found his body and stuff. So, what do you think of this direction that Oda is taking in regards to that?
It's definitely interesting to see that kind of a merger, but I'm wondering if there might still be like intertwined stuff. But then again, Van Alger's got that ability to essentially teleport.
Yeah, he's got the...
I don't think, even though the what's it called, pirates, the
Art Pirates?
even no the
Black...
Well, and that's where things kind of got twisted, because the Blackbeard pirates popped up out of nowhere during the Germa 66 exit strategy.
Well, do you think that might have to do with Van Alger's ability?
I think he's got the type of ability to, where he can duck in and out.
Well, maybe not just him, but do you think that if he's touching something, he can cause that to warp also?
I mean, that's certainly a possibility. We just don't know a whole lot, because here's the thing: within a short amount of time, you had Van Alger. I think it has to be that way, because within a short amount of time, you had the Blackbeard pirates appear at Amazon Lily. And then here they are appearing at that other island, and then they're also showing up at what's the
Talk about Whole Cake Island?
Yeah, Whole Cake Island. So they're jumping around all over the place.
Yeah, it kind of seems, funny that they're able to ambush, all these groups in a very short amount of time.
Well,
that's definitely what's happened.
It's got to be because of Van Alger's ability, because they don't, like, what else do they have?
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting in that. And then we're seeing that Sakazuki gets informed of the battle, but he's frustrated because the fleet admiral can only do so much.
Yeah, it's funny how he said no one told me that a lot of this job is waiting around doing nothing.
So I think he's getting the James T. Kirk syndrome,
where he wants to actually
be out. Yeah, he wants to be out in the field instead of
behind the desk.
Behind the desk, yeah. Now he's finally getting a taste of that. Well, and Sakazuki in his case, he gets frustrated because if the at least what he knows, is the Gorose, when they make their moves and they don't tell him what's going on, and then especially when he's arguing with the Gorose, that they tell him that they're not obligated to share any information with him. And the other thing is, we know for a fact that not everything that they're doing is of their own decisions, because they'll be acting based on what Im was deciding.
Yeah, they're going off of Im's orders, and it's still kind of hard to tell what kind of temperament Im has, because for all we know, he has the I'm not sure if he doesn't necessarily have the temperament of a child, but Im definitely is not predictable.
Right.
Is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, what lights, is he trying to extinguish? Sort of thing. Because
we know what kind of power he controls. He controls most likely the power of
Uranus
weapon that can wipe out an island.
Right.
Makes a Buster Carl look like a snowball.
Right. Because at least the Buster Call, the island is still there.
Yeah, it's just barren.
Yeah. But whatever Im has, whether it's his own devil fruit or whether it's, actually the ancient weapon Uranus, you know, the whole island is gone. So that's, you know, it's kind of a scary thing. So when we go, so once we get past that, then we were saying that, you know, Jory, Bonnie, Luffy, Chopper, and Jinbei have all hidden from the pacifista, and she aged Luffy and Chopper into old men, and then she de-aged, or she made Jinbei and herself younger. And so Jinbei is kind of looking like how he did. Remember when Oda drew the Shichibukai as kids?
Yeah.
So he's kind of back to that. So I'll be interested to see what he sounds like, you know, when they eventually animate this episode.
You know, something I kind of miss is Jinbei's old voice, because the voice actor passed away.
Right. Yeah. That's true. So, you know, we're seeing obviously that, you know, Bonnie doesn't know the history between, you know, the Straw Hats and the pacifistas. And, you know, Bonnie's just trying to protect who she thinks is, you know, her father. But the interesting thing is, I don't think I'm not sure she knows which one is which. You know, if she sees only one, she might think that that's her father, but there's no, I don't know if we can really tell which one is the real one. Although, if I recollect, the Revolutionary Army has the original Kuma.
Yeah, they do, but she may not know that.
Right, she probably doesn't know that. So, now it looks like we have some insight, you know, and Jinbei is being a resourceful, you know, person for information, much like Robin usually is. So, you know, Jinbei, what he's aware of in regards to Kuma is that Kuma, you know, he was the king of the Sorbet Kingdom. But apparently he was a tyrant, and hence why his nickname is the Tyrant. And he was kicked out of the kingdom by the people, and then he became a pirate after that. So, but somehow, I guess he got convinced into joining the Revolutionary Army, and during that time, he was captured by the Marines and, you know, sentenced to life imprisonment. But Vegapunk decided he wanted to use Kuma as a test subject. So, and in order to be allowed freedom, as part of a bargain with, you know, Vegapunk and the world government, Kuma agreed to become a clone, and in return, he was, you know, made a free person as part of the Shichibukai. So that would explain why Kuma would kind of go around doing stuff, but he was a lot more in line with following orders, you know, from the world government when it came to Shichibukai-related business. But he still kind of had some autonomy, because as you recall, as we both would recall, you know, he didn't kill the Straw Hats like he was originally ordered to do. Right?
Yeah, it does.
Kind of makes sense now with everything.
Well, yeah, and it's and part of that does have to do with what's his name?
Vegapunk?
Yeah, Vegapunk, and Vegapunk willing to deal with and also allow some kind of programming flexibility. Because, right. For example, before Kuma, at least temporarily, went into not hiding, but
right.
Temporarily became a full cyborg. He asked that his he be allowed to protect the Thousand Sunny until the Straw Hats came back.
Right. Yep. That's true. And Bonnie obviously does not. She obviously disagrees that Kuma was a tyrant in the Sorbet Kingdom. So I
feel like there's another one of those things that we're not there's like details we're not seeing.
Right, we're not privy to everything as of right now, because you've got information on one side, but then you've also got information and experience from the other. So it's kind of hard to tell what the truth is at this point. And if Bonnie, being the daughter of Kuma, she'd probably know more about what happened than other people would think. But there's going to be things that she didn't know what happened. Kuma may have done stuff that she was not privy to. You just never know.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we're probably gonna see details unfold as this arc is probably gonna be the Kuma like backstory arc that we're gonna be able to understand things.
That's true. So as we're closing out the chapter, obviously the other part of the crew who are with the Thousand Sunny are, arriving on the Egghead Island, which is where, Vegapunk is. So, and then the other thing is that, let's see here. I think the most important thing that we see at the end of this chapter, Matthew, is the fact that Shaka, who is supposed to be he's the main personality of Vegapunk. This kind of makes me wonder too, but before I get into my theory, so it's shown that he's talking with Dragon, who senses that his imminent death is approaching, so he's going to talk to Dragon. So that's how we close out the chapter. So what I'm kind of thinking is that maybe Dragon also used to work with Vegapunk. Obviously, we know that Caesar used to work with Vegapunk, but Dragon could have been a partner. And I'm wondering if, because of what, the experiments or things that Dragon saw may have led him to become a revolutionary, to oppose the world government, because of maybe there were horrendous experiments going on. Maybe he even was forced to do those experiments.
Yeah, it's we're definitely learning a lot in this home stretch, and this is gonna be the Vegapunk. We're gonna learn a lot more about Vegapunk, and then we're gonna learn a lot more about Kuma, and it's gonna be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what all it entails. And, for all we know, it was possible that that Dragon programmed a back door that would allow Kuma to be free of the complete cyborg stuff. It feels like Vegapunk has contingencies involved, and it looks like we're seeing this all come out.
Yeah.
But it'll definitely be interesting to see how the rest of this arc goes, because for all we know, the Straw Hats could come out a lot stronger than,
Yeah, they could get technological upgrades and stuff. That is a possibility. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, one example is that, again, Grand Line Review mentioned in one of his reviews that, when we found out that only that one of the weapons of Vegapunk was something that had the ability to hit light, that it might come into play against
Saturn?
Yeah, Kizaru. because he's pure light. So imagine someone, coming, him going at someone and someone taking the light gauntlets and like poof. Okay. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden I just thought of like Bellamy. He's out of getting Bellamy'd.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. All right. Well, yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and yeah, there's just so much that could be happening with this. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting, and here's what I think. Also, I think the actual Vegapunk is dead. That's what I think. I think Shaka is really the one remaining, the normal part of Vegapunk. I think the real Vegapunk is dead.
Probably from old age or something.
Right. And, he split himself into 6, but so the way I'm seeing it is that the actual wisdom part, if they kill that off, then they will be able to control, the rest of Vegapunk's, assets and his creations and technology. That's what I'm thinking is why CP0 is going out there, in my mind.
Well, unless he developed a or create a I don't know if we'd call it a dead man switch or an off switch.
Right. No, yeah, you're right. Anyway, so that's where we're at. So the new chapter, Matthew, is going to be coming out this coming weekend. So we'll have to see how it goes, and it'll definitely be something that we'll be discussing, and for that. All right. Well, Matthew, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode then. And so thank you everybody for coming out, and we are seeing the Super Mario with John, and then the Kylo Matthew is who is out here. So yes, we see the Kylo Matthew. So Kylo Matthew, where can our fans find us on the internet?
The fans can find us on the video format on YouTube, Rumble, and we are working on Odyssey. The audio format can be found at Acast, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Samsung, and Podchorn.
Okay, and the Matthew, the Kylo Matthew is he's on the Twitter.
We are also on Twitter.
Oh yes. Yes, and Kylo Matthew is also on Twitter himself at the Matthew Salzer, and then he runs the MMA Freak. On the Twitter, it is MMA at MMA Freakout, and then the website is MMA-freak.com. All right, so Kylo Matthew, thank you very much for coming out today. And this is Mario John. So all our friends, we're going to see you next time, and hope you have a great day. We will talk to you soon.